Okay, we are live. Welcome to the Real Wellness Podcast. It is 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I know Michelle is not in Raleigh, she's in Texas. And you'll get to hear so much about my guest today. This podcast is really dedicated to connecting with people that I believe have been through a lot in their life, yet they serve their purpose, they live with intention, they take care of their health. And I love sharing the stories of amazing people. So we keep it real here. So if anything happens, the Wi-Fi goes out, the dogs bark, whatever, it's authentic and real. So let me go ahead and introduce my guest, Michelle Pena. I want to make sure I'm saying it right.
That is correct.
Okay. She is a functional health coach and the founder of Wellness with Michelle, where she helps high-performing women reclaim their energy and build a life they don't have to recover from. After nearly 3 decades building and leading fitness businesses, we have a lot in common. A serious accident forced her to confront what years of pushing through actually cost her. Today, she works with women to uncover the root cause of burnout, hormone imbalance, and gut dysfunction, helping them regulate their nervous systems and heal from the inside out. Her belief is simple capacity is biological. That's so good. Before it is behavioral. And what looks like burnout is often the body asking to be heard. So welcome, Michelle.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I know. I'm so excited to have this conversation. Michelle and we met through Amberly Lago, one of our mentors and coaches, through a mastermind. We got to speak on a stage together a couple months ago in Texas. And we have so much in common. Michelle is a gym owner. Many of you know I owned a gym for a long time, and we're just passionate about health and wellness. So Michelle, what got you involved in all that you do now? What was that catalyst?
Yeah, so I went to nursing school originally when I was in my early 20s. I went to nursing school to be a nurse, and I met my husband my last year of college, I believe, and I was already into fitness. I was teaching group fitness. It was called aerobics back then, the high-low aerobics, step aerobics. And so I met him, and he always wanted to own his own gym. And I was like, okay, let's figure it out and do it. So the opportunity presented itself, and that's what we did. So been in the gym business since I was probably 26, I think, was whenever we opened up our first gym.
Very cool. I have to ask Michelle, I know now that it's we've seen so many different transitions in the fitness industry.
Yes.
What did you originally teach? What was that first class?
Oh gosh, step was my first love. Step. Did you used to teach step class?
I've incorporated step. Yes. But that wasn't
I loved it. I don't know why, but I loved it. And I would practice in my living room all the time because when I would get up to teach class in the very beginning, I was so nervous, but I had such a passion to do it. I was like, okay, let me just practice in my living room. And I did 32 count phrase. You have to stay on the 8 count. And I loved it. I have a step here at my house. Sometimes I'll still pull it out and do some stuff. It's just kind of like riding a bicycle, I think.
Yeah, well, we're about the same age, and that was so popular when we were in our early 20s. I remember when I was pregnant with Isabel, my first, going to step classes, and they were so much fun. And so that was a trend.
It really was. And people would be waiting in line to get into class.
Yes.
Those were the good old days. And then high-low, I would teach high-low also, but that was pretty intense because it's like you were jumping up and down for 45 minutes. But in my 20s, I could do it. Not so much now.
Yeah. So you kind of transitioned from nursing career to following gym passion.
Yeah. So I did personal training while I was going to college. I got my certification, was doing personal training. So that kind of helped me with some income while I was in school. And I feel like with nursing, if I would have stayed in, I probably would have gone more like an administrative role. I don't know if I would have continued to be a bedside nurse because I love operations and I love building things. And so building a business, which back then I didn't really know what I was doing, but we just figured it out. That's what we did. But I found out real quick I had a knack for the operations side of business and growing businesses. So my husband was good with relationships. He was more of the charismatic one. And I was the one that was great behind the scenes. So it just worked out.
That's such a great partnership. So tell me how it's evolved since you guys were like in your mid 20s and today,
Yeah.
like how it look what it looks like.
Man, we've worked together and been married the same amount of time. So October will be 28 years that we've been married and business partners. And it's evolved over the years. Like I said in the beginning, we didn't really know how to run a business. No one taught us. We just kind of figured it out as we went along. And you find out real quick that just because you have a hobby doesn't mean you can also turn that into a business. I think that it's something that happens a lot, especially in fitness. People love to work out or they love the gym. So they're like, well, let me start my own gym. But it's hard. It's not easy. It is very hard to operate a successful, profitable gym. So what we realized is that he was good at certain things and I was good at certain things. So we just have this saying, we came up with the saying, like, we have to stay in our own lane. Like, I can't get in your lane and you can't get in mine. And so we've really kept it that way, and it just works.
So would you say that would be your relationship advice for those who like
Yes.
couples who work together?
Yes, I think it's a lot of fear comes into when you're running a business. So I think it's easy as a couple that's in business together to let fear get in the way. So you try to start controlling each other whenever you are functioning in fear. And I can say that is true for our relationship, how it's evolved over the years in business. But once you kind of get into a groove and you realize, like, hey, I'm controlling him or he's controlling me out of a place of fear, and you deal with that fear, it helps. It makes running a business and keeping your marriage strong so much easier.
Yeah, that is such good advice.
Yeah.
So today you guys operate 3 gyms together?
Well, we sold the gyms that we had. We had a pretty big gym in the 2000s. We had a 20,000 square foot gym. And we ended up also starting a CrossFit gym. So we did that for a little bit. And then we helped a local hospital here in town. We helped them put in fitness centers into 4 locations. So we were pretty busy. And that
Yeah.
was at a time when my kids were small. Like, looking back, I don't really know how I managed all of it, but you just do what you have to do. But so we sold everything, shut everything down just because we realized, like, I don't know, it was hard on our marriage. And we were at a place where, we need to take a break and kind of figure out what marriage looks like without, running a business. And so we took a break, and then we came back in and started a new gym in 2019, right before COVID. So that was its own, set of circumstances, but we're still in business. It's called Rise RX Fitness in Tyler. And it works. I feel like at this point in our lives, like, we know what we're doing. So it's just a very peaceful environment. Um, we have about 1,500 members, so it's a
That's
good facility.
awesome.
Yeah,
You should be so proud of that. But I like
yeah,
how you guys realized you needed to step back and take a
yes,
break because I think
yeah.
so many people they keep pushing through to that burnout, which we're going to talk about
Hmm.
because I know you work a lot with women with burnout. So today, like, what would you say your biggest challenge is? Because I know, like me, being in the fitness industry for pretty much my
Hmm.
whole life, it is really hard. It's hard to continue when you feel like people don't necessarily want to invest in their health. They want to buy all
Hmm.
the other things and their health comes last. But what would you say has kept you guys passionate and most successful? And also, what's the biggest challenge right now?
Okay. I would think, my answer might be a little different from my husband's because he stays more in the fitness side of the business. I love working with our team, our employees. We have a lot of young people that are in their 20s, and my favorite part is seeing them grow and blossom. I know that might sound a little
No,
cliche.
I love that.
It's my favorite part. As a matter of fact, we've had I think 3 or 4 people get engaged in the last, like, few months at the gym, like employees.
Yeah,
So it's
that's
kind
so
of like
cute.
wedding season at the gym. But I love giving them an opportunity to grow and to make mistakes and just to kind of be there to mentor them. That's my favorite part of what I do.
Yeah.
Um, I do love fitness, but I'm not a diehard fitness person like my husband is. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Yeah, and I think that's such a nice balance that you're
So it
both.
is a good balance, yes.
Yeah,
But yeah, my favorite part is building the team.
that's so cool. And to have
Mhm.
that opportunity to lead our younger generation, especially
Uh-huh.
in the fitness industry, is
Yeah,
really significant. So I
yeah.
commend you for that because it is
Thank you.
difficult.
Yeah. And I feel like when I'm interviewing people, I can kind of tell if there's a connection there. I have made a few bad hires, but if I do, then I kind of remedy that pretty fast. I'm not afraid to let somebody go if I need to. But yeah, it's just a good environment and a good culture.
Yeah, and that's, I'm sure, the part of the challenges of running a business is, it's not guaranteed that everyone's going to show up and do their job fully. So
Yes. Yeah.
that's got to be hard when you have to let someone go, but it is. It's part of the business.
Yes.
So are your kids? I know you have 3 children, right?
We have 3 children, two boys, one 26, one 24, and I have a daughter who's 20, and they live in Los Angeles, Nashville, and Dallas. So they're spread out.
So are they all into fitness? I know, like for my kids, they
Yes.
are. So I'm
Yeah.
curious if
Are your
yours are.
kids, you said yours are?
They're all very health conscious. It's taken a
Yeah.
while, but they're there.
Yeah, I know it's been interesting. So both of my boys, they work out every day. They grew up working out with their dad. And even like my oldest son, if he doesn't go to the gym, he's at a local park or he has kettlebells. So he's really into
Yeah.
like kettlebell workouts. And then my daughter, she will work out, not as much as the boys yet, but she's still 20. So I think that
Yeah.
will continue to be a part of her life as she gets older.
Yeah. I think it's so important to lead by example for our children. And it sounds like you guys are doing
Hmm.
an awesome job with that.
Yeah.
So let's transition a little bit. I know, Michelle and I met last year, and we don't know as much as I'd love to know, and we get that opportunity soon because we're going on a retreat together. But I
Yes.
know you had a pretty significant accident last year, and I'd love
Hmm.
you to share a little bit about that and how it's really changed your life.
Yeah, so in December of 2024, we were on a family vacation and I was really looking forward to it because you can tell when you're tired and you feel like you're on the edge of like being burned out. And I remember that year I had been sick like a lot, and I actually ran my own GI map so I could like see what was going on with my gut health, and I could see some markers that were really showing that, hey, you really need to work on your immunity. And I just kept pushing it off to the side. You know how women, and you see this a lot with your coaching practice,
Hmm.
like a lot of women, we just take care of everyone else, but we don't take care of ourselves. And I don't really understand why. I don't know if it's something when we grow up, it's just something we're taught. Maybe we see our moms, our grandmothers, our aunts. You just see women in our lives pouring out to everyone else and not taking care of themselves. And so I was one of those. And so leading up into the trip, we went to Hawaii on a family vacation. And the second day there, my husband and I were on e-bikes riding back from the beach to the house. And we were laughing, having fun, just kind of taking turns being in front of each other. And I think I really lost sight of the fact that I was on a I guess a vehicle going 20 miles an
Yeah.
hour. I thought I was on because those e-bikes are pretty confusing
Hmm.
because to me it made me feel like I was on a 10 speed again, because it's got the pedals and it just felt like I was riding a bike like I when I was 10 years old.
Yep.
And then we took a turn. We were turning, and I didn't slow down. I didn't hit the brakes, nothing. I was just like, oh, we're turning. And I just turned, and my wheel hit gravel and it started getting squirrely, and I hit the brakes and it threw me off onto the road. We were on a road with cars, and it threw me off, and I was on the ground. I think it knocked me out because I remember like coming to just looking up at the sky, and I remember thinking, I'm not okay. I think I busted my head open. And then my husband's running back and he's like, Michelle, get up. And I'm like, I can't. So we went to the emergency room, or the ambulance came, and the doctor was pretty dismissive. They did do a CAT scan, but he was pretty dismissive. And I knew something was wrong, but he just said, oh, you're fine. You just got a little bump on your head. CAT scan doesn't show anything. They gave me a handout on concussions. So I went back thinking, oh, I'll be fine because my son had a concussion and when he played football.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I'll be fine in like 2 weeks. And the interesting thing about concussions, and I don't know if any of your audience struggles with has had
Yeah.
concussions or even post concussion
Hmm.
symptoms. The interesting thing is a lot of times the symptoms don't even appear for 2 to 3 weeks. And I didn't know that. I had no education on concussions. I think a lot of the material that, say, an emergency room physician has is not it's not enough. It's not
Mhm.
enough to really educate, especially a middle-aged woman, on concussions, because
Yep.
it's so much different when you're 50 when you hit your head versus when you're 14 and hit your head.
Yeah.
Um, so I really, really struggled. I ended up developing post-concussion symptoms or syndrome. I think now it's called persistent post-concussion symptoms, but it lasted for over a year. I'm just now like fully recovering. And what I realized through my accident is every time I would feel better, I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. And I would jump back into my work. So it was really hard for those habits to die. It was
Yeah.
really hard because I was like, oh, I feel better. Let me get back to normal, whatever normal was. But I would spiral again. And sometimes I'd be out for like 2, 3 weeks where literally dizzy, I couldn't think straight, having to lay in bed, and I hated every moment of it.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, I didn't really realize how involved my nervous system was in my healing. But now I know, like, my nervous system was just shot. Um, I do think, I really believe this. If I would have been in a healthier state when I had my accident, I don't think my recovery would have taken so long, because like I said, my nervous system, I just didn't feel safe. And so
Yeah.
anytime I would go back to my old patterns, it's like I would just spiral back.
That is so interesting. And
Hmm.
So I know Michelle's written a concussion guide. If there's anyone
Yeah.
listening, that it's amazing. It's so thorough. But let's talk a little bit more, Michelle, about how it impacted your nervous system and how really you acknowledge, like, I wasn't even really healthy going into this trip
Hmm.
and what can
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. So what's interesting is I own a gym, and I'm saying, okay, I wasn't healthy, because you can look a certain way on the outside
Yep.
and you can put the mask on and everybody thinks, oh, you're fine. Because I think as strong women, we push through. We don't want people to know that we're weak, quote unquote weak, because, for me, I always felt like I had an image to uphold. Like,
Yes.
I'm Cooney's wife, or I own a gym, and I have an image to uphold when I show up at work. So it was really hard for me to admit, like, I'm just not as healthy as I need to be. And you can eat well and you can exercise, but if you don't feel safe in your body, or if you haven't dealt with things, like, your nervous system at a point just kind of, it says uncle, it's like,
Yeah, it shuts
okay,
down.
something's got to give.
Yep.
And I didn't really understand what that meant when someone says, oh, you have a dysregulated nervous system. Now I do have a better understanding of it. And it's not so much about, like, okay, needing to do breath work. A lot of things that go into keeping your nervous system regulated is actually the foundations. It's what we teach. It's your nutrition, is keeping your blood sugar stable, your sleep, managing your stress, saying no, saying no to other people, saying
Yep.
yes to yourself. Like, all
Yep.
of those are so important in regulating your nervous system. And I can recognize when I'm working with another female, I know, like, when she's not telling me the truth. Like, I see you're tired. Like, okay, let's kind of dig into this a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
So what would be like the symptoms, Michelle, of like your nervous system? It's starting to, I don't want to use the word shut down because it's still
yeah.
operating, but it's not
Well,
functionally operating.
and what's interesting? I think when women start to go through perimenopause, your capacity just naturally shrinks anyway, right? Because, like, you're losing estrogen, your progesterone is also, you're losing progesterone. Estrogen is kind of crazy, so that's why it goes up and down.
Hmm.
And so that's why you feel off anyway. But the symptoms, I would say a short fuse would be one of them.
Yes.
When you catch yourself shallow breathing, I know for me, I felt like my shoulders were always tight, or like they were up here at my ears.
Hmm.
That you're just always bracing for what's next. I think that is definitely a big sign of, you're just waiting for the hammer to hit. That is a big sign when you're just constantly on. And then sleep isn't good. I've thought a lot about this. It's like, okay, how does a perimenopausal woman know, is it my hormones or is it my nervous system?
That's a great
And
question.
yeah, it is a great question, because I think it's so easy to just default to, oh, my hormones must be a mess. But often we need to really check in with how we're really doing. Um, do you feel at peace? Do you feel at rest? And I think if women, if we could start giving ourselves permission to not be okay, and not, it's almost like whenever you blame your hormones, it's still like you're not taking responsibility for your own health,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
it's like, it's easy to say, well, my estrogen's off or my progesterone's off, or I need to go get some pellets, right? Because I hear that all the time. And getting pellets is not going to fix your nervous system. Getting pellets is not going to fix your stress, your diet, none of that. So, but I think we are in a society where we want a quick fix.
Yes, we are. And that's a big problem. And I
Yeah.
think too, when your nervous system is jacked up, it affects all your hormones. So it's like a vicious
Yes.
cycle. And I
It,
lived that
it
not
is.
knowing
Yeah.
that that's what was going on with me.
Yeah. What did you do whenever you realized, did you
Well,
like,
I lived in a state of like fight or flight after my
yeah,
son passed for I don't know
for
how many
years?
years because I
Yeah.
went through so much loss, but I kept pushing through. And I
Mm-hmm.
was teaching all the fitness classes and training all the
Yep.
clients and doing all of the stuff until my early 40s. I had to literally like stop myself and say,
Mm.
what's going on with my body? Because I was having
Yeah.
crazy symptoms.
Yeah.
So yeah, my hormones were jacked up, but I'm sure from living in a state of high
Yeah.
cortisol for years that my whole body was a mess. And so I had
Yeah.
to really recalibrate, reset, research, reach out to
Mm-hmm.
people for support. So it's like a perfect storm sometimes. And yet so many women just keep pushing and pushing
Yeah.
until you don't have a choice. And I'm at the point in my life now, I'm 52, that I know like last night I got a migraine, which came out of kind of nowhere. And I think it
Mm-hmm.
was something I ate that caused it. But I had to say, you know what, I can't teach tonight, which I hate doing.
Yeah.
I have to honor my body because
Yeah.
what's going to happen if you keep pushing?
Yeah.
Something else can happen.
And like even the women seeing you do that, put yourself first, it gives them permission to do the same,
Yeah.
where you don't have to always push through. It's interesting. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, but when my husband and I first got together, we lost a baby. And I was 5 months pregnant when we lost the baby and had to deliver a stillborn. It had some genetic defects, but
Mhm.
which is what led to the loss. But I never talked to anyone. I think the very next day, or I was back at work, like
Yeah.
teaching classes. And I remember some girl was like, Michelle, you really need to get counseling. You don't need to like just push this under the rug or sweep this under the rug. But I didn't want to deal with it. And so I did. I just pushed through and pushed through and pushed through. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it, like you said, like 10 years, 20 years down the road, you're like, wait a minute, I never dealt with that.
Yeah. And I think there's so many. I'm sorry for your loss, Michelle. And that
Thank
I
you.
actually just met with a friend today who shared the same thing. She lost a baby at 5 months and had it
Yeah.
delivered. And a
Yeah.
lot of people were dismissive towards her.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
she's like, I still buried this child that I
Yeah.
delivered and held. And so it's a
Mhm.
very real loss. And I know so
Yes.
many women
Mhm.
experience this, and yet we don't acknowledge it or we keep pushing through. I know after our son passed, I miscarried and I had two more babies in utero like losses, but I
Oh,
never
wow.
acknowledged that because
Wow.
it just kept moving forward. I don't think I
Yeah.
was moving. I felt like I was going like this,
Yeah. It's
but
almost too like I don't know if you feel this way, but it's like I didn't want to be a burden to other people. Like I was okay if I didn't acknowledge my pain, because I thought I could handle it. I just didn't want to be a burden to other people. And I think that's something we learn as children, it's
yeah,
like, just don't cry, blah, blah, blah. Lord, I always say I cried more in my 40s than I have my whole life. I'm 54 now, but
yeah,
when I finally realized I needed to deal with everything, I cried.
you let
And
it flow.
crying is actually really healing, because your body releases oxytocin when you cry, and it helps you complete the stress cycle. So I don't, if I feel like I need to cry, I don't try to hide my tears or push them down anymore. I like,
That's
well, you and I might be having a conversation and I might just start crying, but it's
And that's
okay.
okay. And I think
Yeah.
that's so important. I think that's such a good point, Michelle, that you're
Yeah.
bringing up is like, you have to express your emotions and just be real with it. And I think
Yes.
that's so important as you coach other women because I love you because you're so authentic and real. And
Yeah.
we're very, like, I'm very drawn to you. And
Uh-huh.
I think it's so important for other women to hear what you're saying, that don't keep pushing forward when something happens, to take time to heal.
Yeah. And it's hard. Like I'm an empty nester or a recent one. And so even when I'm coaching women and say they still have younger kids at home or they're in the teenager phase, which is wild and crazy because you had these little kids that you raised and that were sweet. And then all of a sudden when they turn 15, they know everything. And that's hard.
Yes.
Because how old is your
My youngest is now 20, so
okay,
he's,
okay.
he's pretty
So
much an adult.
So it's like a lot of these women are raising teenagers and going through perimenopause at the same time. So when you
And
tell them
taking
to
care of their parents.
yes, so it's like when you tell them to take care of themselves, they're like, I can't. And so I sometimes still have a hard time giving advice in that area because looking back, I know what I would have done. I would have just said, look, y'all are going to have to figure it out, or tell my husband like I need a day or two. I'm going to go
Yeah.
stay in this hotel.
Yeah.
Or if they didn't like something I cooked, then I would just, instead of cooking 3 meals, I would have said, well, either you eat it or you make your own food. I
Yeah.
think I would have been more of an advocate for myself than just constantly giving in to every whim,
Yep.
because you just wear yourself out.
Yeah. And I think that is such good advice, because I was going to ask you if you, like, now with coaching, and as a coach, we're always asking questions,
Yes.
but it's always nice to get that feedback as to what would you do in this situation
Yeah.
if you could go back and change it, which we can't. Tiffany's
Yeah.
watching and she said, crying gets all the cobwebs out of the soul. I love how you said it's part of the healing process. I love
Oh,
that.
yeah.
It's so
I know
special.
it is
So,
because I don't know if your parents said this to you growing up, but mine said, if you're going to cry, I'll give you something to cry about. I know that sounds so terrible. Did your parents used to say
no,
that?
yeah, my parents did not, but I've heard so many people say
No.
that. Like,
Well, we
you
didn't
just
want a
like,
spanking. I didn't want a spanking. So it's like you just shoved it down.
yeah, you just put your armor on and you just keep on
Yeah.
going. And I
'Cause
think
I did not
so
want
many
that belt
people.
to come out of my dad's jeans,
We had the board of education. My mom would be mortified if I shared that, but you know what? I
Yeah.
think we need to bring that back.
Yes, I know. With the holes
We're
drilled
in
in
trouble.
it.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, Michelle, tell me, like, what's next for you. Tell me about, like, the people that you're coaching. Someone said
Yes.
my parents told me that too. Um, the women you're coaching. Give me a little bit more about what that looks like.
Yeah. So I really love working with high performing women. And the reason why I am using that label is because I want women that are similar to me, that have pushed through, that they have goals that they want to achieve. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're operating a business or building a
Mhm.
business. They could just have their own goals, or they could be running their family. I think we're all a leader of something.
Yes.
We're either leading ourselves, we're leading our children, maybe we volunteer at church. So, but I want to attract women that are going to do the work. I don't want to attract crybabies or people that make excuses. And
Victims.
I don't mean to be harsh. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't want to take your money. Like, if you're not going to do the work, please don't pay me.
So
Like,
good.
and so I just am very passionate about that. And I really love it whenever they say, I can't believe it was this easy, because it really is easy, right?
Yes.
Like when
When you
you've
put the
got an
work in.
accountability partner, I care, you care, I text them to make sure, how are you doing today? Blah, blah, blah. And it's not just about food. A
Hmm.
lot of times people come to me and they think I'm just going to like fix their nutrition, but it's so much more than nutrition. And whenever we can kind of dig into what's going on at a root cause level, and I love giving them education and the data. I always say the data, whether you have an Aura ring, your Whoop, whatever the in-body scale says, like, that is data. It's not meant for you to spiral and cry because you haven't lost 10 pounds. Let's
Yep.
take this data and let's tweak your program. And then, of course, I do labs. I do functional medicine labs with women, but it's just a process. And I love being with them on the journey of the process because they really discover who they are.
Yeah.
And probably the biggest result my clients get, because I do an 8-week or a 6-month program, the very first thing that they start to notice is their energy comes back and they start going to the bathroom on a regular basis. I think,
Yes, which is so important. I actually talked to my guest last week. We talked a little bit about that, how important that is that your body's like functioning.
yeah, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest wins I get. They can go from being constipated or back and forth from constipated
Yeah.
and running to the bathroom, and then they're going to having regular bowel movements 2 to 3
Yeah.
times a day. That's like one of my favorite wins.
I know. Go figure, right? We're celebrating poop.
I know.
So Michelle, what, like, as we leave the audience, what would you say would be like a piece of advice that you would give to everyone if there's like one thing that they could start with?
I think my biggest advice that to start with, food is important. What you put in your body is important. And if you're constantly stressed out, you're not going to digest your food. So I would encourage them to make sure you're eating balanced meals so you keep your blood sugar stable and you slow down when you eat so you can digest your food. I know that's very basic, but it's very practical.
Yeah, and people aren't doing that. And again, the lady I had last week, you would love her, Julie. She also said, when you eat, set the table nicely, make it an
Oh, I
experience.
heard her say that. Yes.
And
Because I
I
watched that.
love that. And it really made me think like I need to just go buy
Yeah.
some like nice a tablecloth.
You know, I do that. I do that. And when I heard her say that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, because it does make such a big difference. It's almost, and I always say the way you eat is a form of self love.
Yes.
So if I have a pretty table setting, that's a form of self love. So,
yeah. Oh, I love that's such good advice. And I love that you align with that because she's a functional medicine practitioner as well.
yeah, I did
So
watch
Michelle,
that.
how can everyone get hold of you? And I will put this in the comments as well. But if they want
Okay.
to connect to learn more.
Yeah, I try to be very active on my Instagram. So it's at michellepena.co. And of course, on Facebook, it's the same handle.
Okay. Awesome. I will put this in the comments. Michelle and I get to see each other in Florida in
Yeah.
like a month and a half.
Yeah, I know. I can't believe it's already coming
Yes,
that
we're
quick.
gonna have
Yeah.
so much fun. But Michelle, thank you for being my guest
Thank
today.
you.
And for those watching, thank you for tuning into the Real Wellness Podcast. Feel free to share this. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Please take care of yourself. Keep it real. Keep it simple. As Michelle said, it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah.
And until next time, I will see you later.